right, so here we have it. We have some beautiful celery, and this is just probably a quarter of the crop. I'm just going to pull up and dig whatever I need that I can for the day. So this was our final fall crop. I'm really happy with it. We got some beautiful produce, and I'm going to take all the celery in the house and I'm going to can the celery. I'm going to keep some fresh in the keeper for fresh soups and stews and things, and for salads. Then I'm going to take some of them and I'm going to dehydrate them, and then this particular batch though is going to be canned. We just collected the celery out of our garden. We had 28 celery plants. So this is what we got out of just 7 of them right here. So come along for the ride, and I'm going to teach you how to preserve celery. We've got the new ball lids here, the BPA-free lids here. We've got these in just to soak in one of my butter warmers here. I just put it on one of my hot plates here, and we've got this probably at around 200 degrees. I'm going to go ahead, and you can see just a little bit of bubbling here on the bottom here. There you go. That's all you really need. And then we're going to turn the heat back off of that. Like I said, my jars are in here just to steaming away. And then, of course, we've got the water simmering here. And you can see we have a lot going on here. I have all my harvest from all my herbs going on here today. We have thyme and lemon thyme and curry. So, you know, oregano and marjoram, pineapple, mint. And we just have a lot going on. Over here we have a big chunk of parsley. So you can see my kitchen right now is covered between canning and herbs, plus the dry goods that we're still trying to box up. I'm still waiting some stuff to come in the mail, and we're going to get all the rest of that put in the buckets. That's my long-term food storage there. And it's gotten dark on us. It's getting later into the winter, so now it's starting to get darker earlier. It's like 7:30 and it's already dark. So I'm used to working longer into the night. But we've got all of our beans and rice dry canned in the oven. You can go right here and see that video. Here we vacuum sealed, we sterilized the jars, and then vacuum sealed my powdered milk. You can go right here and get that video. But today we're doing celery. So come on in, let's get started. We're going to bring our hot lids over right here. We've got our cup here sterilized. And we've got our debubbler sterilized, and we have our ladle sterilized. We have some canning salt here, and we are doing pints today, so we are going to be using about 1/8 of a level teaspoon of canning salt in each jar. And this is my little Easter egg thing I made at Easter that holds my little thumb and helps me hold the jars. Isn't that neat? You can make one of these. It's really simple. Okay, I've got the water really rolling here, and I'm just going to take and I'm going to keep these jars hot and sterile in the water here. It's alright that I already added the salt to this. It's going to simmer right off because I forgot to blanch my celery first. And you've got to blanch it for 3 minutes. So we're just going to bring this hot water that we put in here. Some of them didn't have water yet. I remembered about 4 jars in when I put water in there. I forgot to blanch it first. So, okay, so here we go. We're going to put the jars back in here again. Get them nice and hot because we're hot packing, and we're going to put the lid, well, we don't even put the lid back on there, we just crank up the heat a little bit and get them nice and steamy. So we're going to put the lid on so we can get that back up really fast here, and then we're going to set the timer for 3 minutes once this starts boiling. And that's going to be blanching it. You can steam blanch or you can boil blanch. Either way is fine. Just do it for 3 minutes. We've got the celery blanched now, and we're just going to refill up our hot jars again. We're going to start this over. And that means I got to re-add the salt too because I boiled all that off. But we know that it fills up even 6 jars. I'm just going to pack the jars hot. That's why I kept the jars hot. Right, let's evenly divide this up. Make all these a little bit more even. Now we're just going to take and we're going to fill these up with water. Get in there, my little friend. We're going to give this about 3/4 of an inch headspace. I said inch originally, but I think 3/4 of an inch will probably do better for sealing these regular mouth jars. sure and use hot boiling water. And I did sterilize the water. You don't have to because it gets sterilized in the canner, but I always do. I put too much work into all of this just to play around, you know, just to chance it. I'm not chancing it. So I boiled my water for 10 minutes, probably closer to 15. You don't want to boil too long or your water evaporates out into the room. Which isn't a bad thing in the wintertime, is it? My son always keeps a kettle of water on his wood stove and helps to rehumidify the house in the wintertime when it gets a little dry. Do you do that? Leave me a comment below and tell me one of your favorite childhood memories about your mother or grandmother canning. I love to hear other people's childhood memory stories. Okay, now we're going to take our debubbler. Go ahead and we're going to debubble. And you want to do this because your water line will actually kind of go down a little bit. And we'll probably end up adding more water. The salt in. I already added some, but I already boiled that off. So I'm going to go ahead and, what is that? That's a quarter. So I'm going to go with 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. Then we're going to debubble and kind of mix that salt up kind of in there. Never forget the step of debubbling. That can buckle your lids. Even if it seals and if it buckles your lid, that's not a good seal. That means there's air trapped in there. That means your food can go rancid. All right, there we go. I always give mine just a little tap just to make sure all the bubbles are out. And what's next? We got to fill up a little bit more water here because when we debubbled, we kind of lost some of that water. And I'm going with 3/4 of an inch head space. You can go with 1 inch if you feel more comfortable with 1 inch. Okay, now we have to clean off these tops, so we're just going to take a napkin, a clean napkin, dip it down into our clean water. You can use vinegar for this. Sometimes I'll just heat a little vinegar up in the microwave and kind of get it a little warm. And get any salt or residue or any little strings from the celery or anything like that off the lids. Never double dip this. I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to check for any nicks or cracks just by dipping it here in the hot sterile water here. This also helps me to assure a nice seal. Okay, we're going to place on our lids, and yes, I do line up my words with the front, sorry. There we go. Always have extra jars sterilized and sitting aside with some extra lids. Remember, you can use these lids again once you've heated them, but you cannot use these lids again for canning itself if they've already been through the canner. So if a lid doesn't seal for whatever reason, you can either try to use it on your vacuum sealing, but do not try to reuse it again for canning. Stop go. I always say if it doesn't seal, there's a reason, so. All right, now we're just going to, this is where this right here comes in. If the jar's hot, I'm just showing it to you. If the jar's hot, I made me a little egg-shaped pot holder right here. If you sew, they're really easy to make. Make sure that lid is centered. Okay, like this, and give it a turn. I'm going to show you that to you again. Make sure that lid is centered. Screw on your lid like that right there, and give it a turn, just till it stops. You'll feel it give. I mean, you'll feel it not give, is the word I'm saying. See, watch this. There you go. Actually, this is warm enough. I can grab it by the hand. Yeah, that all feels good. If you're losing produce during the canning process, it's probably because you didn't screw the lids on tight enough. You probably did this right here and left it like that. You've got to give it that other little 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch turn there. It's about 1/3 of an inch, I guess. See, right there's where it starts to give. Give that other little 1/4 inch there. All right, I mean, it should stop turning. That's, see? I can't get it to turn really anymore. I mean, I don't want to put muscle into it. I'm sure I could really crank it down like I did for oven canning, but you don't want to do that for this type of pressure or water bath canning. Now we're going to take and we're just going to carry these over and we're going to put these into the canner. They've been debubbled. We've added our salt, our little 1/8 of an inch salt back in, 1/8 of a teaspoon, excuse me. Fill up the canner, and we're going to want enough water in that canner to fill up at least 1/4 to halfway up this jar. If you're going 90 minutes and it's meat, 70 minutes for pints, 90 minutes for quarts, then of course you'd probably want to put more water in the canner. And you'd put more water in the canner because you're canning longer. Okay, we're going to crank up the heat. You can see here's our celery. We just slipped it inside of here and kind of kept all of our jars from really touching. That's fine. We're going to crank up the heat, make sure that our canner's not touching the back knobs. We're going to blow through the vent pipe right here, this piece right here. There we go. Make sure the lock is hitting the lock on the front. Line up our arrows. But first of all, we want to make sure we've got enough water in there. I'm not comfortable with that water level. I'm going to add some more water. I'm just going to use the water from our fill up. There we go. Okay, line up those arrows, give it a turn, and we're going to let this steam vent. When the steam starts coming out, we're going to steam this for 10 minutes. Just like I told you, you should be able to hold your hand about 6 to 8 inches from this vent. It should be pretty hot. And then this little piece right here, this little locking mechanism will pop up. It'll be spurting water and everything else, but it'll lock up. And then after 10 minutes of steaming, then we're going to put on our weight. And when this gets to rocking, we're going to start timing. We're going to adjust our heat down to about number 4 for our glass top. You're going to have to know your stove. We just want to get a nice gentle rocking motion going. And then we're going to time this for 35 minutes for pints, okay? That's 35 minutes for pints. And we will see you back here when we're done. Okay, now the blanching water for the celery. I'm not going to throw this away. This is good water. I'm going to take my cut off tops from my celery. I'm going to take all my leftover bottoms, the carrots, all the parts, and onions and everything I dug out of the garden today that's leftovers, and I'm going to throw it in this pot of water, and I'm going to make me some delicious vegetable broth at 10 pounds of pressure for 35 minutes for pints and 45 minutes for quarts. So save your blanching water. Delicious stuff right there. I'll just pour it all through a sieve and we'll save that. Everything gets used here. Nothing gets thrown away. All the good vitamins are still, all the vitamins are in that celery blanching water right there. So we don't want to pitch that. And if you want, you can add a little bit of salt to that and salten it up a little bit and have it ready to use. But I'll use that in all kinds of soups. Meanwhile, over here are 10 minutes. We're on about 7 minutes left to go, and you can feel this. It's nice and steamy. You should be able to hold your hand about 8 to 10 inches from up here without getting burned. I mean, you should be able to safely hold your hand about right here. See that? And feel a nice wet steam. Then you know you're getting enough steam. And we're going to do that for 10 minutes. This is about ready to pop up here. Again, make sure your canner isn't touching the knobs at the back. We don't want to melt your knobs on your stove. And we'll be back when our 25 minutes of canning time for our pints are up. Okay, to my celery broth from where I blanched the celery for canning, I added some of my dried herbs that I was drying. So I had some sage and I added that. I added some sticks of thyme. I added 3 or 4 cloves of garlic. And then here I'm just going to throw in some parsley and just pick whatever herbs you're drying here. There's curry, there's lemon balm. Here's some lemon thyme. We'll throw in a little bit of lemon thyme in there. Well, maybe not. I might not want any lemon flavor in there. We'll go ahead and put in some regular thyme here. Just throw that in. Put the lid on. Let's see if we can kind of dish this up here and let you kind of see what's in here. See, there's the garlic. You see right here some carrots. Big old chunk of carrots. I had some big carrots coming out of the garden. Those were all cut in half, by the way. Let's see if we can't dig one big one up here. Anyway, I put that in there. All right, I added a whole red onion that I just split in half and cut the tips off. Put that in. I added a few shakes of black peppers, or you can use black peppercorns. Just a couple of shakes of red pepper flakes. Right now doing that. And probably about 3 to 4 teaspoons of salt. And there you see the carrots and oh yeah, I put my tops in here from the celery that I had, you know, just the tops from the celery that I was canning. And I had a few shakes of celery salt. And we're just going to cover that, let that simmer for a couple of hours on low, a very low simmer. And we're going to come back here and we're going to have at least 6 or 7 quarts of vegetable broth. And you can even put these in ice cube trays when it cools. And you don't even have to worry about skimming off the fat. You just drain it through a piece of cheesecloth and have at it. Freeze it into some muffin tins, some old ice cube trays, put it in the freezer in tubs, or can it up. Our lock is down. We're just going to slide this open. We're going to open this away from us so we don't get our face burned, just like that right there. And it's hot. Be quick. This is very hot. And looks like there's some celery, 2 pieces of celery down there. So one of them leaked out a little bit, but that's okay. Just going to kind of let them sit here for just a minute. Maybe a minute or 2, and then we're going to we're just going to carry these over and sit them on. There we go. So you're asking yourself, can you can celery? Yes, you can. Well, we're going to check our vegetable stock. It looks good. And here you have it. 6 pints of chopped celery, ready for stews or what have you. Celery soup, cream of celery soup, or just whatever you have. And you can dehydrate this as well. You'd want to dehydrate it at 135 to 140 degrees, probably overnight. And celery shrinks really, really tiny. It almost looks like parsley flakes when it gets done shrinking. So, because it's like 85 to 95% water. So celery is a great source. It's a great thing to eat when you're dieting. It's a great source of water. So if you're out of water, just eat some celery. But here, of course, we're storing it in water. And when this cools, the celery will sink back down to the bottom of the glass, and that will put the liquid on top of it. And we could have packed the jars tighter, but we wanted, I don't put that much celery in each dish, so it's just John and I. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed watching How to Can Celery. This is Chef and Builder Janie Pendleton. And we hope you enjoyed this episode, and we want you to subscribe. So leave a comment below of anything particular you'd like to see me can, and I will be happy to do that for you. Blessings.